So when you're listening to music, within 25 to 30 seconds, your heartbeat will increase or decrease to match the tempo of the song you're listening to. And within 45 seconds, your brain waves will as well. So our bodies are these really intricate systems of taking in information through our nervous system and digesting that as experience into our being. And the voice is an amazing tool for that, because we have a very important part of your body is called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is a way that we regulate our safety in our environment. And the vagus nerve is huge. It touches every major organ you have and is very connected to the brain. And it actually comes across your voice box here. So as you speak, you're stimulating your vagus nerve, which is interacting with the rest of your system, your nervous system. And then also we get into your endocrine glands, which are what regulate your hormones within your body as well. And all of those pieces of your body are so sensitive and are essentially, we evolved them to interact with the world around us.
Hi Ohana, welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. I'm your host Alise Koa, where we talk about the myth of getting signed to air quote, make it. This is not true and outdated information. That's why I'm bringing on so many different independent musicians that are, in their definition, air quote, making it, to prove to you that there's a plethora of ways for everyday musicians like you and me to make money. Now, I know there are so many different things we need to know as independent musicians, from how to write great copy and how to market and songwriting and producing and how to build a home studio and so on. Most of the time we don't even know what we need to know. It's hard to juggle it all. So I put together a free members area that you can sign up to right now, where I share my favorite podcasts, books, and online courses on all those topics with you, so you can save yourself money and time. I've done it all for you. As Tony Robbins likes to say, growth is the only limit to your happiness. And we don't want that. All you have to do is click the link below or go to alisekoa.com/free. Now, let's get started. Welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alise Koa, with season 3. I'm so excited for this next guest because he does everything within like sound healing and sound frequency, but he's also a musician. He's a multi-instrumentalist, and I feel like you can play any instrument, right? Drums. I think you were a drum teacher at some point. Drum teacher.
I'm at nine instruments.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's way more than 9.
Not well. I mean, like, I got a trombone, but I'm not like, I'm just making sound on it. There's no one's lining up to hear me play it. I wait till all my roommates are gone even before I practice, so you don't get in
trouble.
Yeah.
Anyways, 9 instruments. Still, I can play like 2, and that's pretty much it. So so musician, sound healer, everything that you can think of. Please welcome Jacob Pasterfield.
Thank you for having me.
It was an honor. I'm just so still thrilled that you want to be here, and you're obviously you give out great energy, so it's just this give and take. So we just had a great conversation before, but before I dive into that, I want to just give you a chance to introduce yourself. Again, what got you into music, and then also into sound healing, because you hinted on that a little bit, but you have all the time now to do that.
Cool. Well, hi, I'm Jacob. I can't remember a time I wasn't into music. My dad is a huge music lover as well, and so there's always vinyl spinning, and my dad doing cheesy, driving wheel drum solos to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Steely Dan and all this stuff. And it was just really ingraining itself into my subconscious. And like, music was just always around. We always had a piano at the house. And I think I remember I was like 14, give or take. I was in that, awkward, hormonal, phase of being a teenager, and I got home from a particularly hard day at school, and And I just put some headphones on and pressed play, and everything just melted away. It was just me and the music, and I was calm and at peace. And I'm pretty sure I was listening to Slipknot at the time too. Like, it wasn't
So
calm and
calm.
peaceful music, but I just put it on, and it was what I needed in that moment.
Nice.
And I just felt great. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, if I can do what music is doing for me right now for other people, that's it. I've made it. That's success.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was going to be with Jägermeister and laser beams while I was traveling the world in rock and roll bands.
Yeah.
So that's the avenue I went for a long time, was just playing shows and doing the concerts and the recordings and all that stuff, which was super fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun experiences. But I would always get home from the tour or get home from the show, and I always felt like, I'm like, there's something so much more happening than just, you play a song and applause and you try and make out with a groupie or whatever, right? Like, I'm like, we're just scraping the surface, and so that kind of got my gears turning. And I'm like, well, what is this? What is song? What is music? What is sharing of sound? Like, why can it elicit these emotions? Why can we create these circumstances? Because I don't have that kind of experience with almost anything else. And so I started looking into the origins of song and speech. And then you start looking at the anthropological origins of the ways that cultures and civilizations have always had an indigenous flute and an indigenous drum. And we can look back for pretty much every observable culture we've ever seen. And there's always been the footprints of music that they've been creating and sharing, whether it be around a campfire at first until, the Baroque and classical and romantic and Renaissance periods, where it was a huge, everyone was producing. So I'm like, where does this stem from? Where does this come from? And that's what led me into sound healing and music therapy. And when I went because I was playing in these bands for a while, and I got to this point, I'm like, okay, I need like an exit strategy. Like, I love making music, I love performing, but I need some sustainable security. I need a gig, right? I need a solid, consistent thing. And so that's what turned me on to music therapy. However, as I was doing research for what music therapy is in Canada, it's a very clinical approach. It's basically like, here's a minor in music and a minor in psychology. We're going to get them a little drunk, put them in a dark room, and whatever love child they create, we're going to call music therapy. And like, I'm on board with that, but I've always been into esoteric and occult beliefs. And so I've always wanted to find out the spiritual aspect of it. Like, where does that, how does it go deeper? Like, it's not just play a song, feel good. It's like, there has to be these elements of it. And with my own research into shamanism, there's been all sorts of different societies and cultures who have specific chants and specific songs they sing in specific times. I wanted to learn about that as well. And so I found a school in San Francisco called the Globe Institute, and I got to go study sound healing and music therapy there with masters who've been doing it for, 45 plus years. And so that's how I got to learn about the ways that frequencies affect your body and your nervous system, and the actual mathematics behind the vibration of sound, and how the whole harmonic series is what creates our scales and our keys and our notes and our modes. And so and it was really interesting too, because I had never had any education in music. Like, I didn't have lessons as a kid. I just got a drum kit one day and started banging away. That's what I love about drums, is like, you just hit them. Does it sound good? Cool, keep doing it. So I didn't have any of the theoretical background, and I learned music theory backwards through learning about standing wave physics of the harmonic series of a vibration. And then it clicked, and I pieced it together like from this weird physics angle. So that was really cool. It gave me an opportunity to kind of, even within what I'm interested in, learn about it even deeper. So I had that opportunity, and then I moved out to Kelowna for a circumstance that kind of fell through when I moved out here. And I was just like, all right, well, this is not the worst place in the world to be stuck with no real plan. So I just started making noise and hosting classes, and I got that job at Frequency and started working at Frequency Winery, which for anyone listening, it's a winery here in Kelowna. And we don't really do it. They don't really do it anymore, but they used to use harmonic frequencies. They would blast that into the barrels of wine, and the harmonic frequencies, as they vibrate out, collide and create these nodal points of silence in these beautiful geometric patterns. And the all of the grape skin, seeds, and stems would get pushed into these beautiful patterns and fall to the bottom of the barrel. So it was just a really cool experience to be using music in an entirely different approach and style than I had ever considered or thought about.
Yeah, same. That's what made me reach out, because I'm like, this is really cool. Like, I've seen like Switzerland do it with cheese. They've tried like different music genres on cheese and see how the taste would change, and it actually affected it quite drastically. I mean, how drastically you can change the taste of a cheese. But so I knew there was like some kind of, but I've never seen it with wine. I'm like, I gotta check these guys out, because this is really cool.
There's actually a really cool musical experiment called Sonic Bloom. I can't remember the name of the scientist, but he basically would play classical music to his crops, and he would play certain kinds of frequencies and music to these crops, and he would watch the amount of growth and yield that happened from just being introduced to music. And it's amazing. And even myself, I mean, personally, like physically seeing a tangible physical shift from sound into, like, I mean, not an animate object, because I mean, it's a growing plant. Grapes are kind of alive still, but that interaction changes and alters things. You know, it's like a plant. Dr. Emoto is another really cool scientist to look into. He studied water, and he was the guy who would say the things to the molecules of water and then freeze them. And then under an electron microscope, he would watch the molecular structure alter based off of the content of the speech.
Wow.
And then they did that one rice experiment where they took 3 batches of rice. They went up to one and they were like, I love you, rice. You're the best rice that ever was. I can't wait to make sushi with you. You're so gorgeous. You're so delicious. I love you. And then they had the second one and they just left it alone. That was their control. And then they had the third one and they just said as many mean things. You suck. I wouldn't even put you in a burrito. You shouldn't feed anyone, even if they're starving. You suck. You're the worst rice around. And they would just say negative things, nothing, and positive things to once. And they went back after 3 weeks to view the results. And the positive rice was like blooming, like it had began to ferment. There was this sweet mildew smell that came out of it. Like, I mean, it's 3 weeks old. You wouldn't eat it, but you kind of would still. You thought about it. And then they went to the negative rice and it was black and it was moldy and it was like disgusting and gnarly. But the thing that got really interesting is, what do you think happened to the one they left alone?
Probably nothing much, just kind of grew a little. I don't know.
It was actually worse than the negative rice.
What?
So the idea behind this is even negative attention is still attention. And all, I mean, living things or everything is being interacted with. Even if it's negative energy, that's still energy. Whereas being taken away from attention entirely is the most damaging thing you can do.
Wow. So like ignoring your kid would be worse than giving it like bad attention.
I don't think, I mean, I'm not a parent. I wouldn't recommend either.
Yeah, I mean, this is taking it to a whole new level. Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend either. But well, neglect is absolutely more damaging. I mean, if you think about like in prison, solitary confinement is like the worst punishment. Like you take someone away from criminals and leave them by themselves, and that's more damaging.
Wow, that shows a lot. I love how you kind of put together like that, because on your Instagram you say like musician, science, and soul. And I think it was an interesting combination, because a lot of people see them all so separately, right? They're like, oh, but I'm a scientist, and if I'm a scientist, I can't believe in, you know, sound healing or whatnot. Like, and you kind of bring them together, which I think is really cool. Is that something that you learned just by kind of experimenting with it, or was that something that you actually like learned at the university that you were at?
Well, that's a cool question. I don't know. I've always I've always wanted to believe in magic, I guess. I think, if I'm being really honest, I always wanted like witches and wizards and potions and spells and stuff to be real. Because as a kid, using, the fantasy realm as like an escapist technique from the difficulties we're going through, I always was like, wouldn't it be cool? And then I started learning, and then I just kind of got onto music, and I'm like, well, this is that kind of. I mean, like right now, like, like look I got guitars right here.
Yeah.
And these guitars are gorgeous and they sound great. Little out of tune, but they still sound great. But until you play this, it's not a thing. But then when you play it, like it's almost like it takes a life of its own.
Yeah.
In a sense. And so I don't know. I've always just liked this romantic, fantastic kind of view of life. That there's more happening than we're aware of, and our ability to describe and repeat what's happening around us doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that there's still a lot more going on than we know. So I guess I've always been inclined to try and find the correlation between the two, because I love science, like, and as I said, I figured out music theory by learning about particle physics. So I love science, and also I feel that sometimes provability is detrimental to imagination, and imagination is necessary for these next discoveries and these outside of the box thinking. It has to exist. Whereas I have met some people who are very much analytical. If it doesn't A plus B equals C every single time, then it doesn't count. And that I've never been in that frame of mind. I think magic, I think a miracle can happen only one time. And it could maybe take us years to understand and explain. And I think for me, my approach to life has been, let's look at it as a facet of a miracle's just about to happen, as opposed to, if we can't recreate it, it doesn't exist. I think more than anything, one of the things that just is amazing for me is, it's like, the more I learn about these very intense and intricate concepts, like the way that these specific frequencies make those harmonic shapes. Right, like these. If you've ever seen a Chladni plate, have you heard of that before? Okay, so let me give you a little background.
I don't know, maybe in German I've heard it, but I'm not.
Yeah, so Ernst Chladni, actually, in the early 1800s, was an inventor and scientist, and he kind of revolutionized the way that we look at standing wave vibrations. So what he would do was, he would take this little flat hunk of metal, and he would pinch it at certain points, and he would bow it with a violin bow. And he would sprinkle sand on top of that metal plate, and the violin bow would shake all of the sand particles into these geometric patterns.
Okay.
And so that's what
I've
kind of
seen that before.
And so that's what kind of kickstarted our understanding about the way that sound vibrations move. And so at Frequency Winery, when we were using these frequencies in our wine, specific frequencies and notes that exist in all forms of modern music, there are these certain little points where you hit this frequency and it vibrates this little metal plate, and it shakes all of the sand on it into these beautiful geometric patterns. And it's like 528, 432, 687.86, like 841. There are all these different frequencies that are called the solfeggio frequencies. And when you hit this specific chunk, boom, it just like immediately shifts all of the grains of sand into these beautiful geometric patterns. And as the vibration increases, those patterns get more intricate and more dense, because more vibrations per second is shifting more sand into these tinier little pockets. So I was looking at this, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is happening all the time, but our inability to observe it makes it so we don't even think about it.
Exist in our mind, like, oh, if I can't see it, if I can't prove it, if I, then it's not there, basically.
Well,
right?
and so again, like I said, the more I've studied all of these different things, the more I'm like this is insane. Like, because the intricacy in the mathematics for that to happen is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
We have to put in the speed of sound, the drag of gravity, the weight of the sand, the vibrations per second of that. Like, it's dizzying.
Yeah.
But what happens is you press a button, you make a frequency, and boom, you see this beautiful pattern.
Yeah.
And so that for me was the magic. I'm like, that's what magic is. Magic is this beautiful universe of ours working seamlessly and also in a stunningly beautiful way the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's always been, for me, it's about celebrating how beautiful the things around me are and trying to figure out why exactly they're beautiful, and being even more mind blown at how impossibly intricate beauty is.
Yeah. That's very interesting, because I'm, you know, I'm a believer, I'm Christian, right? I've just, that's just who I am. That's how I kind of grew up, and that's what I found out for me to be true. And so sometimes they're like, but if you can't prove it, or, you know, if you can't touch it, or, you know, if there's no way of like, and I'm like, but that's exactly the beauty behind it, is like, why should I limit myself to something I can only see or prove, right? That's the magical part for me, is like, why do, you know, it's a very German, I also have to say, it's a very German way of looking at things. Like, we like to have structure, and there should, there's always, okay, what do scientists say about that? And what are the facts? Blah, 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 right? And so for me, it's like, why does one have to go without the other? I think they go together, right? Like, sometimes we just can't explain right now from our scientific standpoint or whatnot, we can't explain this right now, so that's why it's like magical. And right, until like science or whatever kind of tries to catch up with it, right? And you know, that's why when oh my gosh, what's his face, like Tom Edison and like all these great minds, they were called crazy because they're like, you're nuts. Like, why? Or Christopher Columbus or whatnot, they were called crazy people because they're like, it's not, you can't do it, or it's not possible or whatnot. But they believed in something they couldn't see, something they couldn't touch, and they're like, you know what, someday I'm gonna do that, right? And that's what kind of, for me, combines the two. So I thought it was like really beautiful how you combine the two, because you don't have to go with one or the other.
Well, and when you think about it, Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb by a candle, right? Like, he didn't have a light bulb to invent the light bulb under. He was thinking beyond what they had, and he was using what they had. Like, the guys who invented the car had a horse-drawn carriage before that, right? So we don't know what we don't know, and if we limit ourselves to what we can discern, believe, and prove, that's great. I absolutely 100%. Like, let's follow the things that we can understand, that we've used our intelligence as a species to comprehend even deeper. But let's not only allow the things that we can comprehend and understand to be what is. Yeah. Because that's just going to limit our potential. Totally. And so that's, for me, it's like, we'll just need to understand this later, right? And so I'm a big geek about light and color as well, because again, it's all the same facet. It's all a vibration. So light is really interesting as well, because we see the visible light spectrum is a tiny chunk out of all of the energy that exists, right? And it's between, I think it's 400 million vibrations per second to about, I don't know, 1200 million vibrations per second or whatever. It's measured in angstroms, but light is only the 49th chunk of energy, right? So but beyond that, there's infrared and ultraviolet, and then X-rays and cosmic rays and gamma rays, and all these different forms of vibration. Light is one sliver. It's a tiny chunk out of all there is. And so if you're limiting what can be based off of what you can see, what you can hear, like, it's such a tiny chunk off of the electromagnetic information around us at any given point in time. It's a very limited place to stand in if that's all you're going to allow to be true, because you're already limited by your ability to perceive. So you're only going to believe what's within your perception,
Yeah.
you're really missing out on essentially everything, because almost everything is outside of what we can perceive and understand.
I'm just mind blown right now. This is like, this is kind of like proving what I've been already, kind of believing in. But that, wow, I've never seen it like that before. Like that's like, again, that's like a more scientific approach to it, to like be like, oh, this is why XYZ, right? So that's really cool. The one thing that I want to talk about a little bit more is, a real life example, right? Just right before this interview, for those that don't know what's going on, the European Cup is going on right now, and Germany was playing, and it was a really important game. And so I'm a big soccer person. I've played soccer forever. I was the goalie forever. I love watching it. And so I get really heightened. My energy gets real high and I lose my voice. So that's why I kind of sound a little scratchy. But and we won the game as well. And it was a really intense game and all that. So 5 minutes later, Jacob comes onto the call. And so I'm like real loaded. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can concentrate right now. And,
activated, very activated.
Activated, that's a better word to use. Yeah, exactly. So really alive, and I'm like, I don't know if I can concentrate. And Jacob did something really amazing. Hopefully you won't feel like a broken record, but can you just explain to me what you did there? Like what magic you were working?
So right before this all went down, because Alice here was very activated and very pumped up, she just felt a little scattered. And so I offered a tool that I use to kind of bring myself back kind of down to center in a sense. And it's just a toning exercise. So toning is where you make a consistent sound and you hold it. And when I started with toning, you just take a vowel, take any vowel sound, and you just elongate it for as long as you can. And the reason why you do this is because when you're creating a vibration, all of the vibrations around it get impacted by it in a specific way. And there are a bunch of different ways that those vibrations can interact with the world around it. And so the idea of toning is when you create a consistent and strong vibration, what happens is there's this law of physics called the law of entrainment. And it's the way that cycles in nature work better in unison than they do in opposition. Mm-hmm. So to cater to that harmony, vibrations will rise or lower to match a strong vibration. And that's what rapport is. That's what it feels when you sync with someone, when you guys really click, or when you're really in the zone or in a flow state. What's happened is you've created an entrainment and you're working in harmony with all of the cycles around you. So when you're listening to music, within 25 to 30 seconds, your heartbeat will increase or decrease to match the tempo of the song you're listening to. And within 45 seconds, your brain waves will as well. So our bodies are these really intricate systems of taking in information through our nervous system and digesting that as experience into our being. And the voice is an amazing tool for that, because we have a very important part of your body is called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is a way that we regulate our safety in our environment. And the vagus nerve is huge. It touches every major organ you have and is very connected to the brain. And it actually comes across your voice box here. So as you speak, you're stimulating your vagus nerve, which is interacting with the rest of your system, your nervous system. And then also we get into your endocrine glands, which are what regulate your hormones within your body as well. And all of those pieces of your body are so sensitive and are essentially, we evolved them to interact with the world around us. So when you make a consistent vibration, it gives the other vibrations an opportunity to either rise up and meet that or slow down and meet that. Okay. So that's what entrainment is. And so this exercise that we did is we just took the vowel note of O and we just took a breath and then just O. You just hold it until you run out of breath, essentially. Yeah. And that consistency helps your body regulate. The smooth, consistent sound is even. It's not erratic. Your system goes, okay, this is chill. There's no threat. It's okay for this sound. Ooh.
Yeah.
And even from the facet of your breath, right? As you create that elongated breath, you're helping your blood and your body oxygenate itself. Your body will reuptake all of that oxygen and use it efficiently. Then when you take these big breaths in as well, like we're just interacting with the world around us, and we're using our voice to interact with our bodies.
Wow. Yeah, I could
Right.
feel that change. Like that was like he literally did that right before we started recording this, and I went like changed my state so quickly from like kind of scatterbrained to like really high energy to like, oh, I can focus, I can do this interview now, and I know what I need to do and all that, like within like what, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how quick and easy it is, right? Even just taking those seconds, it'll be like, even that is huge. And so I get asked all the time, what is sound healing?
Yeah.
And for me, it's a really interesting question, because I'm like, have you put a playlist together ever? Like, that's essentially sound healing, is you're eliciting an emotional response from music, from some form of entertainment. You are curating that emotional response to an experience for yourself, which for me is, I believe, is a facet of sound healing. Yeah. But you were at you watched a soccer game earlier today, and let's think of the sounds you were making. Woo! Yeah! Woo! Right? Like those are all very activating sounds, which are going to increase and raise your energy levels, right? Totally. And you're physically creating those exciting sounds, and your body goes, this is exciting. Yes. There's that element of mystery and danger and what could happen. And so our amygdala and our fight or flight responses are stimulated, and you're in your, I'm forgetting the word, sympathetic nervous system is activated because there's so much electricity and energy and crackling. And so then you leave that circumstance, but you're still in this elevated state because your body thinks that it's important for your environment for you to be in this elevated state, because there might be this potential threat or danger in a fun, safe way, right? I mean, watching sports, it elicits that kind of danger response in our body, which is why we like it. But then you leave that circumstance and your body hasn't been told that it's safe. We can't get that parasympathetic nervous system to come active. And the breath and the voice and your vagus system is excellent for that. That's what it was created for, right? So you've got your fight, flight, or freeze or fawn responses. Yeah. And if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, our bodies, animals' bodies in general, our ears and our eyes and our nose and all of our senses are used to assess how safe we are in any given environment. So that's why we would build dens. And when we go out to hunt for food, there's that element of danger. And it's supposed to be because there are predators, there are other things that can attack you. And so say something starts to chase you, you get that physiological response, right? You get your tunnel vision, your blood starts pumping, your adrenaline starts coming, your body fills up with cortisol so you can run faster, jump higher. And then you run away, you get away from the lion or whatever the case is, or you'll finally hunt the gazelle, whatever it was you're doing. And then your body is still in this system. But what animals in nature do is they have a physiological response to that to help their body move through all of that excitation, the serotonin and the cortisol that's been released as an evolutionary response and an adaptive way for you to navigate that circumstance. Your body's still in that state, and you have to regulate it back down to that. And you could regulate that through movement and physical activity, like you would if you were running in the wild, you're running away from the lion, you're running for the gazelle, whatever the case is. Yeah. You've got that physical activity, which as the blood flows, it can flush that state out of your system. Yeah. And then you hit that parasympathetic nervous rest, relax, digest phase, and you go, oh. However, if you don't do that, you're always in that hypervigilant state of excitation. So, I mean, even if you think about something like the possum, who when it's in threat, just plays dead. Yeah. What will also happen is after that's gone, the possum will go underneath the tree and it will just start like shaking and moving intensely to give its body an opportunity to move through that excited state and to move that serotonin, cortisol, and adrenaline out of the system. Wow. So if you think about us going through our day-to-day life, we're consistently triggered by all sorts of things. You know, the sports, TV, I mean, even the volume of commercials is triggering enough. We've got electrical crackling in the background. We've got white noise. We've got street noise. We've got so many different things. And our nervous system doesn't tell the difference. The nervous system doesn't have a cognitive brain to go, hey, that's just a car. Don't be afraid. Your nervous system goes, sound.
Yeah.
Are we in danger?
Yeah.
And so the thing that I really love about music and sound is that gives me the opportunity to come into that state. I got my music on, I'm in a safe space. I use my voice to remind my body I am a safe space and that this space is safe. Oh, hey, how do I do that? Well, you pay attention to the sounds you're creating, right?
Yeah.
You can regulate them. Even just right? Like the sounds we're making are interacting with different parts of our body, our organs, and our nervous system all the time. We're just in this kind of automatic response to it. We don't really take the time to appreciate how deeply it's interacting with us, which it is all the time. Like every piece of your body is listening to every word you're saying.
Totally. Yeah, it's very interesting. So basically what we're getting like all these stress inputs, like all this, danger here, danger there, then, and our body is like on high alert, but we haven't learned how to like tell our body, okay, the danger's over now, danger, whatever it is. So at the end of the day, it would be good to have like, okay, or even like in between to like kind of tell your body you're not in danger, right? That's what the kind of like the possum does that thing, kind of for us to come down as well, right? There's an interesting, because I obviously checked you out on YouTube, and there was a really interesting video on there that where you talked about sonic stress relief, and I think that was very interesting because I'm kind of like to our bodies. I think our body alone is just magic. We still
it's insane.
Know nearly enough, especially of the brain, that we have no idea yet about, right? And so I just kind of learned about the nervous system, and I found out a lot of things that I just thought, it's just there to like, oh, this hurts and to kind of avoid it and stuff like that. But it's so much more, and I had no idea. And you kind of brought it up, and you kind of like touched upon it a little bit, but kind of explain how to kind of, because right now everyone's stressed, especially now, kind of coming out of COVID, but still kind of a little unknown, and this stress where we all like build it up, but we don't know how to let it go, right? Like, okay, good. Kind of explain what really the nervous system is, why it's so important, why it kind of like triggers everything, and how to kind of, again, when we're in these stressful situations, you showed a really easy tool that's kind of very similar to what you just did with me before, to kind of calm that down and be like, all right, you're good. That's kind of a lot, but
yeah, well, explaining the nervous system is a lot.
Very
the nervous system is so cool, though. It's just so cool. It's so cool. Okay. So here's no, we're not gonna go there. That's too much. Okay, so
very simple. Like I just
I know. I want to get. I know
the surface here.
Yeah, I know. Like we'll be like a 5-hour.
Really.
Like, this is how your brain perceives sound, and all it really is vibrating airwaves until your ear and brain translate into experience. But that's too existential. So okay, basically, the nervous system is your body's means of understanding the world around it. It is the mainframe that navigates and directs external stimulus into your body so we can have a cognitive response based off of the information our nervous system is receiving. So smell is a great example because it's pretty passive. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, you go and actively smell a flower every once in a while, but when you walk by a flower, you smell it. When you smell something burning, that triggers an instinctual response. Whether or not you've been damaged by a fire, you have that instinctual, like almost genetic heredity of, hey, fire bad, smell now we know. Right?
Mm.
So that's a really good example of the way that part of your nervous system is giving you information based off of the environment around you. Whether or not there's a fire, your brain is going to be at least cognizant of the potential that there could be a fire because you're smelling something burning.
Yeah.
So your ears deal with sound, and sound is just a specific chunk of vibrations. Sound is what we classify anything between about 12 vibrations per second to about 20,000. Mm-hmm. Underneath that is subsonic, and beyond that is ultrasound. Mm-hmm. So sound is, again, a chunk, and that's what our ears are for, is for relating to that specific chunk of vibration. Our eyes do the same thing, but for way faster vibrations. Instead of, a couple dozen to 1,000 vibrations per second, we're talking hundreds of millions of vibrations per second, which is what light is. So light comes from the sun, bounces off things, the nerves in our retina and our eye. Again, in another impossibly intricate system, navigates that awareness and that information so we don't bump into things, and we can find what's food and assess what is a threat. And that all stems from just a biological change that happened on this planet hundreds of millions of years ago, which then sparked our eyeballs growing and our ears growing, right, as these means for us to navigate the world around us. So I'll tie this back into kind of what I was saying as utilizing sound as a means to navigate these things. Your ears are consistently taking notes off of the sounds around you and how those sounds make you feel. So our ears, as a defense mechanism, will push specific sounds and frequencies out of our awareness if it's causing us pain or making us feel like we're in danger. So And this is something, because I teach music, a lot of people are like, I'm tone deaf, I could never learn it, I could never learn rhythm. There is a small facet of people who have amusia, which is where their brain just doesn't register the difference, but that's like 3% of the population. Most other folks have some form of sound and nervous system response preventing them from actually hearing correctly. So let's say, for example, you get in a car accident. There's a lot of intense sounds around that experience. So what your ears might do is, if you're around too much noise or volume, it will just push that out of the periphery of your understanding. And you won't be able to hear those things accurately because your nervous system has connected that with a traumatic experience, and our body doesn't want to feel those traumatic or painful experiences. So it pushes it out of our awareness. Another good example is, say you had parents or siblings who were screaming all the time and yelling at you, or fighting over dinner, or whatever the case is. Your ears will push out those selective frequencies of the pitches of those voices that were troubling from you growing up. You'll be selectively deaf to those frequencies because they're harmful. Your body goes, no, those are bad. Those have always been associated with bad things: danger, pain, heartbreak, all of those things. That's what those sounds do. So no bueno. So you then leave that circumstance, but the defense mechanism of your ears pushing specific frequencies out hasn't left.
Yeah.
You have to get back to that place where you and your brain and your nervous system create that agreement again that, oh, no, wait, this isn't a dangerous sound because we're not in that environment. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people will be selectively deaf to certain kinds of tones and frequencies based off of some history and experience, and it has nothing to do with their musical capacities. That's a nervous system defense mechanism.
So you kind of have to retrain your nervous system to be like, this is okay now, basically for you to hear it again? Or is it just like a subconscious thing where you're kind of...
It's a subconscious trauma response. And so, what has to happen is you have to navigate that trauma, which can take so many different forms. And there's so many different ways of navigating that. And I'm not necessarily recommending everyone. They're like, oh, well, let's try it. Obviously these are things that take your own, your own healing and your own body with respect, right? Give yourself the time and the space to heal appropriately. But that is a very common thing that happens to a lot of people, is we'll be selectively deaf to certain kinds of sounds because we have associated them in our past to danger or pain.
Wow. That shows how amazing our brain is. There's a quote that Tony Robbins said that changed my life. And he says, your brain is designed to keep you safe. not happy. And I mean, that again just proves it is like, right, the brain has developed, like you said before, it's just there to preserve the human species, right? So it's there to like keep us safe. It's not there to keep us happy. That's our job, right? But that's
That's our
why
job.
it's always triggering, be like, oh, danger here, danger here, okay, let's not just, I had no idea. That just blew my mind, is that I literally will take out certain, or not take out, but subconsciously make you like unaware of tone frequencies. Like,
Yeah.
that's how powerful it is.
So for me, okay, cool. Well, that's all good information and all those
Yeah.
things. But now what? What can I do?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
That was
what's
one.
next? And so one of the techniques that I learned and that I do very often is what's called frequency sweeping. So essentially you start at the lowest note you can hit, and then you just move your voice all the way up to the highest note you can hit. And for me, what I do is I check into my body's awareness. And as that's happening, I try and sit with any emotions or any feelings or any connections that might come up, because it's all stored in our body as well, right?
Yeah.
Like our subconscious mind in our body is recording everything that happens to us. And so your body keeps score. There's actually an amazing book with that title, The Body Keeps Score. It's the way that your body holds on to these negative memories. And in an attempt to move through them, you'll physically have memories in a sense. Like if you broke your arm, you'll baby that arm, maybe even for longer than necessary, because the habit is still being held in your body, right? And there's a lot of ways to navigate that. But as I mentioned, for me, I go, oh, and I pay attention to the sounds that I can't make well. I pay attention to the places where intuitively I don't want to stay there, because for me that means I'm activating some part of my subconscious mind in relationship to the way that I've built nervous system defense mechanisms around specific kind of sounds. So that for me is a tool for self-exploration.
Yeah.
And I teach that in a lot of my classes as well. I teach people how to do that because it's very meditative as well. We're creating that kind of calm fluctuation. It's our voice, our voices, ours, right? Like it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. The power of your voice is huge, and it's something that's used all over the place. And we've just kind of gotten to a habit of doing it without the intention that it deserves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even as I speak, I try and pay attention to like where in my body is my voice coming from. I mean, I know it comes from my throat, but if I take my hand and I put it on my heart and I go, that's where I feel the sound resonating within my body.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it comes from my vocal cords, but I feel it here. And then when I move up in pitch, that moves farther up. It's kind of like follows my spine almost. And it follows up. And so I can go, and now right here in my throat is where I'm feeling the vibration the strongest. And if I go higher, I start to feel it behind in my mouth as it comes across my palate and up into my nose. Right? When you get that nasal tone, like we're actually projecting our voice out of different parts of our body. And so I use that as a means to regulate my emotional and mental states. Do I want to feel grounded? Do I need to like come down from, excitation, like, soccer mode, right? That's a very elevated and lifted kind of emotion. So, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? Something grounded and something solid. So I do a low frequency to balance that out. Say I'm feeling low energy and I've got something I need some energy for. If you go, whoa, 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 like if you just did that for 5 minutes, you'd be amped.
That's why, because like in soccer, that you're constantly doing like, yes, and then you're like, oh, then and like you're constantly, especially.
Well, and even as you say that, there's emotion into it, right? Like it's like,
true.
And I think that's one of the things that's really cool, is because that's, we're interacting with vibration. That's all energy is. It's just a facet of the speed of vibration. And we're so much more aware of how we're sending that energy. We just like forget. We just do it so often. We forget the magic in it. We forget the beauty that we just are so accustomed to knowing that we forget about it.
Wow. So when you're like in a stressful situation or something, I mean, mine was like quite like high energy. It's that like if you're like stressed and you need to like calm down, would you do like the same exercise or a similar exercise and do like how does my voice? Do I just always make an O sound or do I use different vowels?
So
Does that make?
I think about a mother with her baby.
Yeah.
What kind of calming sounds is she making?
Yeah.
Ooh. Right? And I know that sounds kind of strange, but I feel that in my body when I do that. And I like, if I'm in a stressful public circumstance and my anxiety's going off the place or whatever, I'll do it really silently just to myself.
Yeah.
And like, it calms me. It's nice. I mean, it's a little strange. It's like I'm cooing at myself essentially, but it works and it like feels good. I'm like, yeah, okay. We're good. We're fine. We'll get through this.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I do. Connecting to your breath is huge because your breath allows your body, the blood and the oxygen in your body to move, right? So that allows your organs to work better. That allows your brain to work better because we're moving this blood and this life force, I guess, whatever, this oxygen through us, right? So we're always interacting with ourselves and we just forget how much power we have essentially.
Yeah. That's cool. So it doesn't really matter what sound you're making as long as it is like a soothing sound or
I would say there probably are better sounds definitively, but I think that the intention matters more than the specific frequency.
Okay.
Because now we're using consciousness and consciousness is pretty cool, right? So sure, I bet you certain sounds will help. Like if you think about it, when you've got a gut feeling, like that's some information from your gut is being sent to your mind or your heart or whatever the case is. If you've got a gut feeling, so if you want to get into that intuitive space, I would use sounds that make me feel my gut, right? If I want to feel calm and relaxed and I want to feel at peace, I try and make sounds that will activate my heart. And if I want to use my mind, I want to use different sounds that activate my mind, right? Yeah. And so that's just how I see it. And that's how I personally use it. I mean, again, I haven't definitively been able to say, oh, this specific frequency unequivocally across the board for all peoples in all time works. Yeah. Because everyone's a little different. And even when we're dealing with this, every person's story and their nervous system memory off of what's safe and what isn't is going to just vastly differ. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I was just mentioning, a mother's sounds to calm the baby. Not everyone has the luxury of having that as a positive experience. So when they use those sounds, it can actually be stimulating a negative experience. And it doesn't matter what sounds you're using because it's so overburdened by a negative story and negative experience that it doesn't matter what sounds you use.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think the intention is always the most important part. And even in the community, like there's a lot of movement right now towards utilizing all of these frequencies, and these frequencies are ancient. Like we've uncovered flutes from caves in Slovenia that are like 4,000 years old that were chiseled out of bone to the frequencies that we at this winery use to shift the particles. Like it's been around for a long time. So people are like, what frequency should I use for my heart chakra, for my throat chakra, for my crown chakra? Yeah. And I mean, scientifically there has been correlations, but even anthropologically, every single culture that's had an interaction of frequencies and notes into the parts of the body that they work, no one across the board agrees 100%. Everyone's got a little bit, because there's so much complexity around it. So people are always searching for this perfect frequency and this frequency to prevent this or stimulate this or to get us to this spiritual place. And yes, certain frequencies do have a track record of working, and absolutely go find as much information as you can. But your intention, right? So for me, I think that intention is that thing that can shift that vibration to that strong vibration and create that entrainment. I think if a frequency is a couple notes off with the right consciousness and the right intention, it can still do what it needs to do. Yeah. So.
All right. That makes
so yes, specific frequencies, and also
use
your what works for you? Like, we're so disconnected. Like, and I think that is a little bit of what we were speaking about the science versus magic kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, we use science as a means for repeating something beneficial. That's or avoiding something detrimental. That's why we've gone through the pains to have the scientific understanding.
Yeah.
But also, some people won't let themselves get to that emotionally intuitive state because they need that kind of analytical proof to allow them to get to those states. And like our brain, like we were speaking about the body is so intuitively intelligent. Like your body knows how to heal itself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time we're just getting in the way.
Yeah. Do you know a doctor, where this is going in a different direction, but just as a little side note, Dr. Joe Dispenza, have you heard about him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's like the master of like body healing itself, right? I mean, I've listened to some of his podcasts and stuff, and like, this dude is amazing. But I had in the season 2 episode, I had a producer, interviewed a producer that was into Reiki, and she actually put together an entire album. So it was like, I think 10 tracks or 11 tracks, I'm not quite sure, of her like using, you know way better about this, but basically how I understood it as a newbie is like using the chakras frequencies, and kind of like you know, with every song she had like a different chakra and stuff like that. And it was really cool because I just put on those headphones and I just put it like track 1 to the last one, and afterwards I felt like completely, I was like somewhere else. Like when I opened up my eyes, I was just like, holy cow, what just happened, right? That's where music can take us. Like it can, I mean, that one was specifically kind of also designed, she kind of took me behind the scenes of that, but that was like, for me, my first kind of interaction with knowing, you know, sound healing or design or whatnot, something like that. And that already blew my mind, you know.
Well, and so, you know, what I'm always doing is I'm relating sounds and emotional states to the chakras. That's just a template. I mean, like, it's for me, that's a template. And the thing that I find is amazing is we have 7 chakras, and there are 7 major notes in the diatonic scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We've got the 7 chakras. There are 7 main colors. Like there's so many correlations in between all of that. And so I do use specific instruments to relate to those chakras based off of their kind of vibration and the energy that they can provide as well. And then, as I was mentioning, that frequency sweep exercise, I've also used that to find out which frequency my chakras resonate at, because you can feel that activity once you hit that specific frequency. So there's a really cool concept called a sympathetic resonance. And so a good example is like, if you're tuning your guitar, you get to that B string, and once it comes in tune, the whole guitar starts to hum. And it might be the B string or the E string. It depends on the actual manufacture and shape of your instrument. But you hit that place and it just hums. Or like, I have a cello over here in the corner, and it echoes. The sound goes in there and it echoes. And what's happening is that's called a sympathetic vibration. So let's take an example of those opera singers who break those wine glasses. So the science behind that is, within all of the cells that wine glass is made out of, we go down to one individual atom. And in that center of the atom is the nucleus. And we have all of these pieces orbiting around it, the electrons, the neutrons, the positrons, everything. It's orbiting around it, right? That orbit is creating kinetic energy. And if we take that oscillation and we spin it on its side and twist it like this, that oscillation plus movement makes a little sound wave. It makes a little sine wave, right? And that's how we measure its frequency. So when you recreate the frequency of the cell or the nucleus of the atom, you hit that resonant frequency, the like key essentially that molecule is in, it releases some of that stored kinetic energy. So the opera singers, here's the C sharp note or whatever it is that the wine glass crystals are made out of. The vibration from their voice stimulates the releasing of the stored kinetic energy by hitting that harmonic resonance within that cell. And so it releases. So they just go up and down in pitch. So right here, And every time they hit that resonant frequency, it releases, and it releases more kinetic energy and more kinetic energy. And eventually the release of that energy becomes so intense, the crystal glass can't hold its form anymore, and it shatters.
Wow.
And that's what we do when we galvanize kidney stones with ultrasound, is we blast an ultrasonic, something outside of our ears. We can't hear that frequency. We blast it into the kidney, and that shakes apart all of the molecules of the kidney stones. They lose their form, dissipate, and you can pass them. And actually the next frontier of a lot of sound healing in a therapeutic and a medicinal sense is utilizing those frequencies to destroy cancer tumors.
Holy cow. Okay. So that, I mean, that takes that like to a whole new level, but like, I mean, that's again showing how powerful music really is, right? I think it's become such a commodity, you know, right now, that I think we're kind of not losing, but we forget actually what impact it has on our lives, on our, you know, how our body reacts to something, especially that you said like it like what, after how many seconds it like your heart wave connects in your brain.
Within a minute of listening to a song, your body has synchronized to that song.
Wow. And a song is usually like on the radio like 3 minutes, 3.5 maybe, if it's longer, right? So like
even less nowadays.
Even
our
less
attention spans are running away from us. So
yeah, so I mean that just shows you how powerful it really is. And I hope like people that have been listening to the podcast can like realize now, you know, you are what you listen to.
yeah I think that a good piece of advice for everyone is just like take time to really like feel how music is making you feel, and then don't be afraid to use your voice and see how that makes you feel in your body.
Yeah,
like even if you're so terrified of your voice, which I think more people are than aren't.
Yeah.
I read a statistic that most folks are more afraid of speaking or singing in public than they are of death.
Oh,
so
wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was accurate. I don't know. I mean, I just heard that.
Yeah.
But where most folks go their entire life without exploring their voice.
Yeah.
It's a part of you. It's like never looking in the mirror at your body. Yeah. You know, which I'm sure there's also people who don't do that. And there's so many reasons not to, but I hope anyone who's listening to this, like if you take anything away from this, it's that it's a really cool experience for you to use your voice and find out the ways that affects your body, because you have it right here the whole time. And most folks either don't know or are too afraid to dig into it to find out what that means for them.
Yeah, that's how would you say, how do you like kind of experiment with your voice? Is there like a way to be like, okay, you know, I'm kind of afraid, but you know, how do I get into that? Be like, okay, I want to try this out, or like, is there like a way?
If you feel really uncertain off of where to go, just get any instrument and just do note by note, like oh, right? And just like just try and match the sounds. And this isn't American Idol. No dickwad like Simon Cowell is gonna yell at you and tell you you're a failure, which I think is a poisonous mentality to be in with anyways. Yeah. But just take something and then try and make the higher sounds. Right? Like I can't really hit those notes, but this isn't about perfection. This is just about getting familiar with using your voice. Like I haven't really met a ton of bad singers. I've just met people who were very unfamiliar with how to use their voice as an instrument. Another practice I really like So I have two kind of like main go-tos that I use for both enjoyment, meditation, and just like self-exploration. Is I have this frame drum.
Yeah, right? I saw that on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so it's an Irish Catholic bodhrán, which I have Irish heritage, and I have some indigenous drums as well, which are beautiful. But I really like this because this is connected to my heritage as well.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun for me because, like I said, I mean, every culture has origins with music. And so for me, it's been a really fun process of exploring my heritage and the instruments that come from, you know, some epigenetic lineage of my own, which, I mean, I've actually never been to Europe or Ireland, which is where my lineage is from. So one day I'll go there, but for now it's been really fun. Oh, like, don't threaten me with a good time. Like, I'll get out there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's been a really fun process to kind of feel the stories behind that as well.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that you do is you just, so what's cool about this is you hit those resonant frequencies and it hums more. I don't know if it came across, but I hit that one note and the whole thing opened up. Right. Now this is being used as like a speaker almost.
Yeah.
And so all I do is you just take one tone and you just move it up and down in pitch. Just one consistent tone. Follow your breath. Inhale. Oh. And just play. Like, it's, I think one of the things I love the most about music is it's one of the only activities that you're always playing. There's an element of fun. It's experiment, like, get excited. We don't work music. I mean, you can work on your music if you've got goals and projects and products and end results you want to create. But up until that, it's play. So, like, let's reinstate that. Like, everyone all the time is allowed to make music. It's like a right. You have a fundamental right to make noise. And let's make it fun again, because your body will benefit from it.
Yeah.
And even if, like, so, and a lot of people too, we're in this really kind of toxic mindset where it's only if you're good enough are you allowed to. And I understand where that comes from, but it's a very poisonous mentality because your body doesn't think that. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're playing piano and you miss Beethoven's solo, your body's not going to go, well, guess what? You don't get the physiological benefits from playing music now because you screwed up that solo. Shame on you. You know, like, no part of your body does that.
Yeah.
Your body's just like, wee.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, that's something that I'm like tackling from, like, that's what made me want to start the podcast in the first place, because that is such a toxic mindset to have. And we have it as musicians all the time. It's like, if you're not talented enough, whatever that even means.
Good enough.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of things in there that are just not working. But anyways, but basically, if you're not talented enough or not talented, whatever that means either, you're not gonna make it, whatever that means, in the music industry or as a musician or as an independent artist or whatever that means. And it's so toxic. And a lot of people think, oh, Beyonce, she's just so talented, or Taylor Swift, of course, because she's so talented, or Billie Eilish, she's just so talented. And we kind of put it off as, yeah, they're so talented, right?
But it's like a freak of nature kind of thing. Like, it's an unobtainable thing because you weren't gifted with that. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, so it is a bad mentality.
Yeah.
Because no one can make music that you can make.
Yeah.
Like, you personally can take the exact same song and play it in just a different way that might mean something super important to someone.
Yeah.
Maybe not globally. Yeah. Like, everyone can learn how to play music and how to enjoy it. Yeah. I can't guarantee you're going to be a next Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
But you can get to the place where you can play a guitar enough to enjoy it and feel good and accomplished about yourself. And that's more important, right? We put everything on this success pedestal.
Yeah.
Where if you haven't signed that major record label deal, if you haven't done that international tour, you know, then what are you doing? When are you going to get a real job, right? Like,
yes.
And it was really interesting for me too, because back in the day when I was a young and reckless hooligan playing in punk rock bands, I was like, oh, those guys who teach music lessons or who work at the Music Store have just given up on their dreams and they've sold out, you know.
Exactly.
And that is just an asinine attitude that I had picked up from somewhere that told me it was cool. And then now, you know, I've been working in a music store for the last like 3 years. I was doing sales for a year and a half, 2 years, and then I switched over and now I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching as my main gig, and I love it. Like, I love it. I never thought I would like it this much. And so I have these moments where I'm just like, what? Like, all I do now is I play music, which is my favorite thing to do. Exactly. And because I've been doing it for so long and I've created enough experience and understanding, I can also help other people get to the enjoyment that I get from it. And when I started off on this journey, I didn't think that this place where I'm in now would be a destination along that. But right. I'm so grateful that everything I went through up to this point has brought me to the place, because I just get to personally enjoy my days.
Yeah.
Right. And I, for the very longest time, I only believed it could be if I was this rock star archetype, you know, I wouldn't be happy. And then I was on tour, you know, and I've even talked to a lot of guys who have done those international tours, and they're like, I was sitting in a hotel room in Italy and I was depressed on a world tour. Right? Like, so we've been encouraged to adopt these practices and beliefs that that's what success is. But everyone individually gets to define their own success. And for me, I believe if you enjoy every ounce of what you're doing and it brings you personal fulfillment, that's the most important part.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we create music to share with other people, and that's great. That kind of community interaction. And, you know, especially when you see a concert, there's this vibrancy of this energetic exchange of the performers and the audience, and the performers and the audience, and we give and we take and we, you know, and that's amazing. Yeah. But also, are you happy? Like, is the moments you've spent getting to that point, have they been joyful? And we forget that a lot, and especially in the music industry, it's always this milestone, and I got to get to that next milestone and that next milestone. You will never not find another milestone if you put yourself in this belief state of, if this, then this, I'll be happy. Once I get that new piece of gear, I'll be able to make the music that I need. Once I play the show there and get these people to see me, then if this, then there's always another then. So, and we're encouraged to believe that, because that's what keeps the machine working, right?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So for me, the antidote was sound healing. I'm like, I love music. I love how music makes me feel. Yeah. And I went into that because that was what my goal was. I mean, I don't know. I miss playing shows and stuff, but I don't really have the same, like, I want to travel the world and play in sold out stadiums. Yeah. I mean, like, that would be cool. And if that opportunity comes up in my life, I'm never going to be like, nah. But it was just really wonderful to see how my perspective and my goals shifted once I got a little bit more honest with myself as to what I needed and what I wanted.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Like, literally, you know, trying to tackle exactly those myths that I know I've been part of. I believed the majority of this 5 years ago, and I studied this crap. Like, not crap, but, you know, I studied that, and nobody once told me maybe getting signed isn't the only way. It was always try to get signed. That was like the only way they show you how to use your music. And I'm like, the longer I've graduated now, I'm really going back into like the normal world life. I'm like, I love making music, but I don't enjoy being on stage that much, and especially not on my own as like a solo artist. Like, I do not like it. And I'm like, there has to be more to this than just getting signed. And you just put it together so beautifully that just summed up everything I'm trying to like show. And hopefully people that are listening can realize what success really is for you. What does making it for you really mean? And does getting signed really make you that happy? Like you said, you have like friends that were like, that made it, and you know, and you see like big artists that, you know, fall into drug abuse or get depressed, and you're like, why?
Oh man,
You know, why are they doing drugs when they have everything they want? They've achieved all their dreams. They're so famous. They have millions, right? And we kind of like, what are you whining for, right? And we're like,
Yeah, well,
they're not fulfilled.
yeah, and the damaging side of the music industry on an individual's mental health is a huge conversation that is not being talked about enough. Like I personally have had very close friends of mine, musicians who have committed suicide, drug overdoses, like horror stories from people who were just pushing themselves to get to this thing, right? And actually, when you speak to Jody, she's amazing. She's such a great example off of the way you can find your own success. Like she's one of the most driven and genuine human beings I've ever met. And she's getting her music, she's publishing it all herself. She's getting her Spotify followers by herself. Like we're in the day and age where you don't need these signed, deals anymore. We have so much access to so many things, and the internet gives us the availability to be connected to everyone. And another thing is, like, I for the longest time thought it was like songs, like part A, B, C, do the solo, C, and you make these albums, right? Like that was, and I got to this place, I'm like, you can make soundtracks, you can do scores for videos, you can do jingles for commercials, right? Like there's so many things you can do with music that isn't in this rock and roll on the stage, do the tour, sign the label deal case, right? Like that archetype or that model is it's gone. That's not, like model. We don't do that anymore. It's outdated. Like I went to school and studied record company management. We don't make record deals anymore. People don't even make records anymore, right? And that was like less than 10 years ago. So the system in the industry changes so quickly. But we forget that the industry is built off of musicians and art, and musicians creating art is the foundation behind it. Exactly. So as an artist, it's important to find ways to branch out, to do extra things that really make you happy, right? Because a lot of the singer-songwriter thing is great, but I mean, unless you've found your fan base, you're just sharing the songs with your friends and family who probably support the hell out of you, and that's awesome. But like, I have a friend who he makes black metal, and he is on a record. He's got a distribution deal, and over in Belarus and Russia and Iraq and Iran, he's huge. His music is excellent over there. Like, but no one here in Canada is into it because he's partnered with a group that gets his music to the people who will like it. So, I mean, there are those kind of relationships that exist, and it's by utilizing people's understanding and awareness of the demographics that are into certain kind of things. So there are symbiotic relationships that can be created with people, but at the end of the day, it's him making that music that's the important part. And he loves it. Like he's really funny too, because he's like a really unassuming dude. He's just, kind of this cool, like, stoner guy, like, grew up on hair metal and like Pantera and all this stuff. And he goes into his house by himself and he writes albums, and he's got like 3 different like bands. So when he wants to make this kind of music, he goes and makes that kind of music, and then this kind for this artist and this project. Crazy. And then he just makes it, finishes it, sends it to the dudes. They get it distributed where it needs to be. But everything else, he does it himself. So, I mean, the ways with which we have access to getting our music out has also shifted as well. And the more research you do and understanding of, okay, what are the people who like your music doing? Well, where are they? How can you get your music to them? Right? So there are all these really awesome opportunities and ways that artists can get themselves out there in ways that 5 years ago would not have been possible.
Exactly. Well, you don't have before the label was like the gatekeeper, right? The label did all the business stuff, and you as an artist did all the music, the creative stuff, right? So it made sense for them to come together. But now we don't have that gatekeeper anymore. Through iTunes and Spotify completely changed the game for everything. And I'm not throwing shade, label or bad or whatnot. Like, if you want to get signed and that's like your thing, then go for it. But what I'm just trying to say or show, hopefully, is that there's so many different ways to use your music. And I think you're a perfect example, because you said, like, you started out as this rocker, going on tour and all that stuff, and you realized, you know what,
there's something missing. I want more. This is not really, I thought this is going to fulfill me, but it's really not. And now you're happier than ever, right? You're just so awesome to talk to, and just
Thank you.
picking your brain now for, I mean, over an hour now, but just already like blew my mind, and I already got to learn so many things. So thank you so much for being on here.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So where can people check you out? So if they want to learn more, which they will, where can people find you? What are your next projects, if you have any coming up, or teaching lessons? Where can they go?
I am notoriously awful at self-promotion. I don't have a ton of spaces to be found. My Instagram handle is Moonlight Banshee. And so that's where I kind of place my personal stuff. Like, I do have music I'm working on. I've got this little album I'm tinkering around with, and it's this really fun. One of my roommates described it as it's like grungy space rock. I'm like, yeah, right.
Cool.
So I got this little, I make music. Koomba-Ya is my business. And so that's where I do all my sound healing and music therapy out of. So I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. And so I post a lot of my content. If you're into the meditative side of things and the vibrations and the frequencies and using your voice, Koomba-Ya is the place to be for that. And then I also have a YouTube channel under the same name of Koomba-Ya as well. So I just post videos and sound meditations and sound baths, and sometimes I just ramble and say what I think, and people are like, cool, good things. So that's the best way to find me. Koomba-Ya is my business. And if you Google search and you find it, like, just good. That's, I don't know, good enough. I really believe that, like, the people who want to be there will find me, and it's Koomba-Ya. I know I want to get a website or something, and I've been saying this for like 15 years and still haven't. So
don't we all?
Just howl at the moon long enough and I'll show up, I think, is probably the best way to do it.
Right. Yeah. I'll link everything up as well, so people don't have to go, and I'll make sure they will find it.
Cool.
So everything will be linked up down below.
Sorry, I always forget to mention this. I have like a handful of episodes of a podcast I created, which you can find on Spotify. It's called Rainbows, Dreams, and the Space in Between.
All right.
But Rainbows, Dreams, and the Space in Between. So I've got a podcast. I think there's about 13 episodes. I was using a third-party distribution thing, and I lost my login information for about a year, and I just recovered that this week. So it's been pretty inactive for a little bit over a year, but I was actually still at frequency when I recorded the most of it. So I would just go in and like turn all the microphones on and just start recording, and it was super easy. And so being outside of that space, I haven't picked it up again, but because I found everything this week, that kind of, lit a fire under my ass to kind of get back into it. So I do have a podcast out there. There's 13 episodes. So if anyone's interested in essentially anything I've been speaking about today, I kind of go on more in depth about a lot of that there as well. So
perfect. So Rainbows, Dreams, and the Space in Between for the podcast, and then Koomba-Ya for all your all your more business stuff, right? And then
my sound healing, music therapy, information stuff.
Oh, perfect. So I'll link.
And like I said, I mean, this day and age we live in provides so many opportunities. Like right now, we're connecting. You're in Germany. I'm in Canada. And, we can still connect. And so that's been really cool, because I've done sound healing sessions online for people and tarot card readings and all the service I provide. Like, I can do one-on-one stuff, and it's really cool having the availability to do that with our modern technology. So
makes it possible now, especially, because of COVID, it's been like pushed even more. So I love it. I'm using it for sure. That's what got this started. So again, cool. Then I'll link everything up so everyone will be able to find you. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for just throwing so many value bombs in here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Musician Secrets podcast. I appreciate your time, because you could literally be doing a bazillion other things right now, but you're here with me, so thank you. If you want, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and leave a comment on how you're liking the podcast, what you've learned, and things you've even implemented that have helped you out. As a little thank you, I put together a free members area with all my best resources, books, podcasts, and online courses about everything you need to know as an independent musician, from producing to songwriting to marketing to building a home studio, all the good stuff. All you have to do is either click the link below or go to alisekoa.com/free. I'll see you on the other side. Bye!